I had intended to upload a video today titled Everyman an End Unto Himself, but then Stardusk threw down the gauntlet, to which I am compelled by the rules of being a guy to respond. This morning I listened to Stardusk's On Non-Ideology video, and while I generally agreed with him and thought he made several good points, after he criticized those who make unsupported assertions, he then made a big one of his own. To wit, that anti and feminists are disinterested in data but are only out to get clicks and poke fun. My question is, where is he getting this from? While it's certainly possible that this is generally true of anti-feminists on YouTube, the vast majority of anti-feminists are not on YouTube. Of those who are, the more learned of them have relatively few subscribers, and I know for a fact that many anti-feminists have spent decades digging through data. Decades ago, the men's rights movement was very different from what it is today. In those days, MRA stood for Men's Rights Advocate. An advocate in this context is the equivalent of what Eric Hoffer called an intellectual with an axe to grind. We did not think of ourselves as anti-feminists because, almost without exception, we believed in equality in the eyes of the law. But in retrospect we were, even though some of the best-known anti-feminists today would disagree because they still believe in the dictionary definition of feminism, as opposed to the way feminism is defined by the actions of the second, third, and fourth wave feminists. As a longtime anti-feminist, and by lifestyle, though not by name until recently, as a MGTOW relatively new to YouTube, I spent thousands of hours reading and fact-checking hundreds of feminist books and thousands of feminist articles to analyze feminist arguments and assertions. And that's just me. Warren Farrell, who would never call himself an anti-feminist despite that he is one of the best-known critics of feminism, almost literally made a career of slogging through mountains of data. The same can be said for Christina Hoff Sommers and Kathy Young, names that are perhaps not well known among MGTOW on YouTube, but should be. If Stardusk is limiting his observations to the most popular anti-feminists on YouTube, or to the sad little fiefdom called A Voice for Men, then he's ignoring hundreds if not thousands of anti-feminists, living and dead, some well-known, most not, who labored to address all the same issues that many on YouTube are surprised to discover are not new. Excuse me. And they and I did this at a time when the internet was not the rich resource it is today, and we had to go to the libraries and dig through stacks, books, and microfiche. Now for myself, in 2006 or thereabouts, I very literally threw away hundreds of feminist books. They took up an entire room of my apartment. I had read and analyzed them all, and I was sick of lugging them around. And as most of them were little more than propaganda, I threw them away. And while I still have a few feminist books I want to read, Pollitt's Sexual Politics is in my stack, I stopped when I discovered that I already know more about feminism than the vast majority of feminists, and that when some third or fourth wave breeze brain starts spouting feminist nonsense at me and I respond with, oh, sure, that originated with Catherine McKinnon or Robin Morgan or Shulamith Firestone or whoever, and here's why it was stupid then and it's even more stupid now, the typical response from these paragons of feminist puffery is, who? Most of these deluded children have little more than a Tumblr understanding of the issues, and the women's studies majors are even worse because while they might have read some of the second-wave hate apologists, they've been taught to think in terms of goofy psychobabble like intersectionality this and cis that. What's more, giving truth to the very old observation that everything old is new again, they keep recycling the same stupid nonsense. As everybody here knows, no matter how many times we counter their most beloved lies, both they and the mainstream media continue to parrot them. Super Bowl Sunday domestic violence, for example, or gender pay gap, or the rape hysteria. By the way, I was totally jealous of turd-flinging Monkey when he pointed out the gender tax gap. It's such an obvious thing to look at, and yet it never occurred to me, nor do I recall anybody else bringing it up. Gah! I wonder if Gretchen's mighty sluts have had any luck tracking him down. through my moles within the Women's Elite Vajayjay Cooperative, I've heard that she was talking about unleashing her uber sluts to get the monkey. Speaking of turds, the feminazis produce propaganda like hippopotami spraying poo. In my 1996 article, Confronting Every Evil, which I made into a video a few weeks ago, I described them as, quote, inveterate blamers who shower shame like a defecating hippo in the face of everyone they can, close quote. You know, things are getting bad when you start quoting yourself. They churn out a veritable deluge of postmodernist nonsense to keep us distracted from the underlying purposes and goals of their cultural Marxist movement. Now, I know that some MGTOW take the position that it's not cultural Marxism but hypergamy, and at a more fundamental level, I think they're probably right. But the historical fact is that second-wave feminism was dominated by Marxists, and their ravings permeate the bedrock of the third and fourth waves. Bedrock? Waves? Okay, it's confusing. If cultural Marxism is motivated at a visceral level by hypergamy, eventually that will become a practical consideration. But for now, its value is to guide our preparations for when that time does arrive. And in that respect, I'm leaning toward turd-flinging monkey's conclusions. Assuming he successfully evades the uber sluts, I look forward to listening to more of his videos. Before the time comes when we can effectively address hypergamy, however, we have to deal with the escalating attacks of the cultural Marxists. There are also those who say it's not cultural Marxism, but postmodernism, also known as post-structuralism. But that confuses the weapon with the wielder. Postmodernism is a technique, a tool, an approach, or weapon to attack society. In a monarchy, libertarians could employ postmodernism to undermine the existing order in that situation. So it's merely a tool which cultural Marxists are using, and on the feminist front, they're using it to attack patriarchy. As I observed in my May 1995 Things That Make You Go, column, which I posted as a video yesterday, quote, oh God, here I go again quoting myself, the purpose of civilization is to protect women and children, and the purpose of patriarchy is to protect civilization, close quote. By using postmodernism to attack patriarchy, the feminist cultural Marxists are attacking civilization. Individually, we can do heavy lifting, dig through the data, and do the research to both counter the attacks and determine where and how we, as MGTOW and society in general, should evolve. But from personal experience, I know how time-consuming and unrewarding that can be. No matter whether it's anti-feminist countering the hate or MGTOW ruminating on what it means to be MGTOW and spreading the word, we simply lack the platform. As one of the co-founders of the Manosphere, I know how much progress we have made thanks to the internet. But our enemies do too, and they have powerful allies in the federal government working to censor us. They might be unable to shut down our websites, but they can censor us from search engines, censor our email, forcing us to resort to code words to spread word about networking websites, and they will shut down our websites if they can. Even on YouTube, we run the risk of being shut down. Currently, YouTube seems to be focused primarily on the largest and most successful channels. Stormcloud's Gathering is an absolutely superb channel with a huge subscription base. But then YouTube demonetized their channel, taking away their means to support the production of their high-quality content. A few weeks ago, the producer of the documentary Blue Beats Green posted his documentary on his channel only to have YouTube shut it down scant hours after he posted it. They shut his channel down. They didn't disable the video, they shut him down. Blue Beats Green tells a truth that so threatens the corporatist agenda that they would not allow him to share it even for free. Well, he did post it on Vimeo, and I did watch it there, and it's an excellent video. This kind of censorship is what I foresaw several years ago. No, it wasn't some spectacular insight on my part. I've talked about being a shockwave writer, and I read that book, Shockwave Writer, by John Brunner. And Brunner saw that sort of a society evolving, and that's what we're getting. So, at a time when there were only a fraction of the anti-feminist and MRA websites that we have today, I saw this coming, and there were no sites or video channels espousing the MGTOW consciousness at that time. Now, there are many sites and who knows how many MGTOW videos, and it's all very encouraging to me, but we have powerful foes. This is one of the reasons why I have made it my goal to get rich, and why I no longer concern myself with heavy research or bother to wade through the data. In my opinion, we need many MGTOW, anti-feminists, and MRAs to get rich so we can fund the production and distribution of quality content from producers like Stardusk, Sandman, Man Woman Myth, TFM, A Turd Flinging Monkey, Burn Chapin, Clive, and others. But right now we're just too vulnerable. So to come back to Stardusk's contention that anti-feminists are disinterested in data but only want to get clicks and poke fun, that may be true of the major anti-feminists on YouTube, but it is far from true about the majority of anti-feminists, many of whom have, like me, spent tens of thousands of dollars and years of their lives on the efforts. I was tempted to call this video Stardusk, the Farce Awakens, but I was afraid that might be misconstrued. Stardusk is a good guy, and most of the time I get a lot out of his videos, but on this point, I think he's working with a sample that is just too small to be representative. That's all for now. Check out the other videos, subscribe to the channel. For the Backlash at Backlash.com, my name is Rod Van Mecklin.